everyone, welcome back to Mad About Cards and Crafts. Today I'm going to do some no-line coloring with my Zig markers. I have created this cute little card and I'm not going to be sharing the process of putting the card together, but just the no-line coloring. So I am using the Merry Mice and the Banner Buddies stamp set. From the Banner Buddies, I'm just going to use the heart, and when I do my no line watercoloring, I use Bristol Smooth cardstock and I stamp with Tim Holtz antique linen ink. That's, I find, is the best ink for me to use with my Zig markers. So I'm going to use 3 of the mice, the bird, and the ladder. So let me tell you about my growing pains while I'm doing this stamping. I decided to move over, as I said previously, to my Panasonic Lumix camera, and this is the first video that I shot with. And there are a ton of things that I like better about shooting with the camera. But nobody told me, this whole YouTube thing I have learned on my own, that shooting in 4K will take up a lot of space, and my 64 gigabyte SanDisk was not enough to shoot a full video. So I was able to get the coloring in, but again, not the process. So when my camera said it was out of storage, I took it upstairs to my computer and went to load it, and it said I didn't have enough storage on my computer to load the film. So I had no way of getting it off my disk, and I had to make a decision. Was I going to hold off and, you know, run to the store the next day and try to get the things that I needed to get this off my disk? In the meantime, I had a Windows update, and during that Windows update, it locked up my Wi-Fi, so I had no way of getting on the internet. It was, oh my goodness, I had so many challenges. It was crazy. So I decided that I was just going to make this the coloring video. You'll see the picture of my card at the beginning, a picture of my card at the end. It's pretty straightforward how I put the card together, and I'll kind of go through that process as I'm doing the coloring. Right now, let me just say that I am coloring those hearts with dark pink on the outside. I line the heart with the dark pink, and then I go in and put light pink over that and blend them together with water. So I'm going to do that for all of these little hearts. And I'm also going to show you in this video how you can use 2 of the same colors and get different results. So that's a little bit something different that I'm going to share in this video. I love coloring with my Zigs. I've said that in a previous video. It's just very relaxing. And so this was just a really fun process. I wasn't sure how much of this I was going to keep in the video, but obviously I'm keeping it all in for you guys. So the premise of this video was to show that these stamps from Hello Bluebird, and a lot of stamps that you have, are super versatile. So this is actually a Christmas set, and the die that I use, the Treehouse die that I use to help create my scene, it came with Christmas lights. And I didn't have a chance to use it over the holidays when I got it, and I thought, wouldn't it be cute to use it for Valentine's Day and get some more use out of the set? You know, during February it's still cold, scarves are worn, so it seemed like it would be perfect for that occasion, and that's what I did. So I'm coloring all of these hearts, and some of them are going to be strung up just like a banner or like Christmas lights on the outside. And I'm coloring the ladder right now that one of the mice is going to be standing on. That's going to be the person or the mouse that will be hanging them. And on this, I am outlining it with oatmeal. And then I'm going to bring the water and, or no, I'm sorry, that's not oatmeal. That's actually pale dawn gray. I'm going to go in later with the oatmeal. So I'm just lining the outline of the ladder, and I'm blending it all out with water. And then I will let that dry, and I will come back to that. So this first little mouse, I wanted to make it more brown, and so I outlined it with the pale dawn gray, and that pale dawn gray has kind of a brownish tint to it, but I'm going to add oatmeal on the inside. So I outline with the pale dawn gray, and then I use oatmeal on the inside and blend it a little bit with the pale dawn gray and come back in with my brush and blend it even more. So there's the gray, there's the oatmeal. And you're going to see that I go back and forth a lot. So I'll do a little bit of work in certain areas on one mouse, and then I will move over to another mouse. That's just so that my paper doesn't get a lot of warping. I can let things dry out just a little bit. And you'll see in some of this that I start to blend, and I have to go back in and put more water on my brush, because you're going to see, I think it may be mouse number 2, that it just wasn't blending, and that was because I simply didn't have enough water on my brush. So that's a little bit of a tip. If you find that you're not getting a blend, you know, you don't want to saturate your brush, but undersaturating it isn't going to move the ink either. So I'm just going to blend this out, and I take my time when I color. It's very therapeutic. I'm not in any hurry, so it's by no means a fast and easy card. The structure of the card, putting it together was easy, but as far as the coloring, it's, you know, for me it's a little bit time consuming, but it's something that I enjoy, and that's one of the joys of being a card maker, is not for me to necessarily mass produce cards, but to create and enjoy what I'm creating. So I'm going to go in and color the tail, and then I'm going to move over to the other mouse. So now you see I'm using the oatmeal. So I'm taking that oatmeal and I'm outlining him with oatmeal. The other one I outlined with pale dawn gray, and then I came in with the oatmeal. Well, on this one I'm doing the opposite. So I start with the oatmeal, I bring in the pale dawn gray, and you'll see that I get more of a gray mouse. So these are the same exact colors, but they're just reversed in the order that I'm putting them on, and so it's creating a different look. And so that's something to think about when you're using your zigs, is reversing the order of how you're putting that ink on and seeing what different colors you can get doing it that way. So the reason that I wanted to do that was because I wanted to have some sort of continuity with the card. It needed to have, this little mouse needed to have some brown in it, but it also needed to be able to blend with the third mouse, which is going to be gray, as is this little bird. So I'm coloring right now with Shadow Mauve, which I think is really interesting because it's a blue color. But anyway, it's called Shadow Mauve, and I am coloring the bird with that and a little bit of, I think it's just basic gray. And so the bird is going to be blue and gray. Now I'm coming in and coloring the scarf, and with that scarf I used pale pink I think that's the only color that I used, was pale pink on the scarf. And then for the ears, I use the almond pink. And so it's a little bit brighter of a pink, and I just use that in the ears. And I'm going to use the almond pink in the ears of the gray-brown mouse. And now I'm coming in with that same shadow mauve to color the scarf. And you'll see that I start very light, and then at the end of the video I'll come in and I'll intensify that because I just think that it may be just a little bit too light. I love the softness of the pink on that mouse, but I just felt that that blue on that scarf needed to be a little bit darker. So towards the end of the video, I'll do that. You saw that I came in and just direct colored their nose, and that was with the pale pink. So I just colored directly. I didn't do any ink blending or any water. I didn't use any water on the nose. So now I'm just adding a little bit more shadow. And then I'm going to start working, I believe, on, maybe I go back up on the bird. So see, I intensified a little bit here. There we go. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to deepen some of that bird. And there's an outline of the feathers, and so that's what I'm doing right there, is I'm just trying to get that outline in there so that I don't lose that detail when I put the water back on. And that's one of the things to understand about the zigs. When you go over that distress ink, it will change the color, and your outlines will be darker. So even though you're blending it out with water, because it's on top of another ink, it still retains the outline. So now I'm going into this third little mouse, and the third mouse is pale dawn gray, and then I'll go in with a light gray. And I'll blend that out, and then this mouse will definitely be gray. So I hope you enjoy this coloring process, and I hope you learn a little something from it. That was, I was going to keep part of this in just so that you could see, how I do the different, how I add the different colors in different ways to get different variations. But as I said, I wasn't able to film the rest of it. That being said, I did go out and buy an external drive for my laptop. So now I have 4 terabytes to move things onto, and that way I can transfer things from my card onto that external hard drive. And then I also purchased a new SanDisk that is 128 gigabytes. So hopefully that will be enough, and I may even go in and see if I can change my settings, figure out what high definition is versus the 4K ultra high. So trying to figure out the right settings for that. But I did love using my camera. I wish that my arm was a little bit longer. I hesitate to do that, to put a longer one on, just because of the weight of the camera. I don't know if structurally it would be sound to have a little bit longer one. So that being said, it means that I'm working in a smaller area on my desk. But the nice thing is that I can actually cast to my phone. So while I'm doing this video, it's a lot easier for me to peek over and see if things are in shot. And that was something that I wasn't able to do with my phone. When I was filming with my phone, I was having problems. If I got a notification of any kind, it would shut down the camera, and that was becoming an issue, and that's why one of the reasons I switched over, not to mention that my son purchased that camera specifically for me to start doing YouTube videos. Back to the card, I colored the bird's face with light gray, and then I'm coloring the hat with a peach pink and a pale pink. So those are the two colors that I'm using on the hat. And then on the scarf, I'm going to come in with tea rose, and I believe I use the peach pink for that. So just a slight variation on the scarf, but still coordinating with everything else on the card. So when I put this card together, I did color, I cut out the tree house using the tree die, and I colored those with, or I colored that with oatmeal, dark brown, and brown. And the, sorry, the brown on those zigs is actually a reddish brown, so that's the color that you're going to see on the door. I came in with that almond pink to color his little ear. And then I'm going to come in and color his scarf with cobalt blue, and I'll blend that out. But back to the treehouse, after I was finished coloring it, I really wasn't thrilled with it, and I thought that it was missing something, so I took a Faber-Castell polychromo pencil, and I drew some lines onto the tree to give it a little bit of texture. Right here I'm adding little lines to the ladder to give it that wood look, and I'm using that oatmeal right there. And so anyway, back to the construction of the card. The paper that I use, the hearts in the background, that's an MFT paper pad, and it is called, I want to say, Stripes and Hearts. The brush that I'm using to do this watercoloring is Silver Black Velvet number 4, and I do stamp the inside of the card. I decide not to put a sentiment on the outside of the card. I didn't really have a good place for it, and I had in mind the way that I wanted the scene to be, and I just didn't think that it needed it. So I did use a friendship sentiment from the Storybook collection, and I don't have it in front of me to tell you what that sentiment was. I used the Lawn Fawn Hillside Border dies to cut some Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock to use on the snowbank that's lining the scene. So those are the other products that I used, and then I just glued everything flat. So nothing is on foam tape or dimension or anything like that. Everything I just glued directly to paper. So there's a look at the card. I think it's absolutely adorable. I did color those windows with yellow and pale orange. And that is my card. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit subscribe and like, and thank you for watching.